Welcome everyone to Dragon Quest FM, where we talk about and obsess over Dragon Quest. I'm Austin,
I'm BJ.
and this
And
week we have a special guest. Sorry, I cut you off. We have a special guest, Chris.
This is
Hey,
Chris.
hi,
Chris.
hi,
Um,
and I'm Chris.
tell people about yourself.
Hello everyone. My name is Christopher James Teuton. I am a writer, a game designer, a director, a painter. I do a whole bunch of other stuff. Usually, I just kind of introduce myself as consultant. But in this situation, I think I would like to introduce myself as I was Austin's former boss for a while,
Yep.
and
Me
that
too.
yeah, yeah, it's a fun way that you like to surround your friends by just everybody who like used to tell you what to do professionally, and now that we can't anymore, it's like, oh, now I'm gonna do it.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, that works. Also, you make video games, which I think is
I do
something
make
that
video games, yes.
our audience would very
It's
much care about.
probably the most relevant of the ones to the audience, though. But yeah, so you make video games. You had a release not long ago, didn't you?
Yeah, I try to do one or two kind of like big. When I say big, I mean big for me, but one or two big projects a year, and then for the rest of the year, I kind of do smaller projects, usually for just like members of my Patreon. If you look up Filthy and Free Publishing on itch.io, you can see all the stuff that we've made. The most recent big release that we did was called Spaceship Typing, which Austin was kind enough to help me kind of like
Fun.
play test and play with his kids for. And what it is a educational typing game for ages like 4 to 7 that's basically designed to help teach kids how to use a keyboard. Kind of like the old Math Blasters games where there's words coming down on the screen and kids have to type the words as fast as they can to blow up the alien ships before they reach the planet. And it's something I just made. It started off just being for my son because he's learning how to use a computer. And then after I was doing it and I showed Austin, he was like, "Oh, well, I think my daughter might like to try this too." And the more people that I showed it to, more of them said the same thing. So finally, I was just like, "Oh, well, we'll make it a full release." And we've got lots of different character options. It's got some customizable stuff. We tried to get accessibility options in there for like people with dyslexia. So we have different fonts and stuff like that. And
Nice.
it's gotten really good feedback so far. So yeah, that was the last like really big project that we did. But we're putting out like smaller stuff all the time.
That's awesome. One of my favorite things growing up was actually playing Mario Teaches Typing. I loved it so much on my old like 380 DOS 386 Packard Bell that I had, like going in and booting it up. It was so much fun. Like I know a lot of people our age have like Mavis Beacon Teaches Typing, things like that. I don't have that one. I have Mario Teaches Typing, and that was what got me really, really well. That wasn't what got me able to type a lot, but that's what got me actually learning where my fingers went and how to do everything. It was online gaming and IMing in the late 90s that got me learning to type. But that's awesome. I loved games like that. So yeah, if y'all have
Um,
got kids, go check that out.
and BJ, we're of a similar age. Did you also, when you had to learn how to type like in a computer class in school, did they have those really horrible plastic covers that went over the keyboard so that you
Not
could not see
mine.
the keys? No,
No,
I always
mine
thought
did
that
not.
was a
I had
very
those.
interesting way to
Yeah.
type. Yeah, where it would show you like this is what your keyboard looks like, but you're not going to see it. You have to memorize where the letters are.
Hmm.
hmm
To this
Yeah.
day, I'm fairly certain that I don't hit the right keys with with all the right fingers. Like 30 years later, like I don't, but I type well enough now and for long enough that it doesn't matter what button my pinky hits, it's always going to be a certain key. Like I cannot change my like to the absolutely correct way to do it.
And you guys know, not to just take up our entire time with talking about typing today, but you guys know because I talk to you both on like Discord or texting or whatever. My whole thing is my typing is usually riddled with typos, and
Same.
it's because it's because I'm always typing so fast and doing five other things when I'm texting or writing.
Hmm.
And so my like actual like published writing and like other things like I have to be way more careful about. But if you're just talking to me as a person, like I'm gonna misspell everything
And yeah,
because I am doing other stuff. But
yeah.
anyway,
I,
so this week's episode is all about like year-end stuff. So this is our last final episode of 2024. I
24. Yep.
forgot what year it was. 2024.
Well, I haven't been having to put 2025 on some things like already. So
Oh,
it's
really?
been, yeah, for like applications and like start dates and stuff like that on when I'll be able to start jobs. So I've seen things in different games. Like this was the 2023 set of this, like an Adventure Quest 3D, and it was just like, wait, what year is it? And when you said that, I'm like, oh God, what is this? But yeah,
What
it's
year is
2024.
it? Like
Yep,
Robin
it's
Williams in Jumanji. Yeah. So anyway, so because this is the like kind of final episode of this year, we always do like recaps where we talk about our personal games of the year and favorite games we played. Um, Chris, we wanted to bring him on not just because we like him, but because he also plays games a little different than the ones BJ and I have played this year. So his game of the year list is probably going to be slightly different than ours. Um, Not to keep people in suspense, let's just get like straight into it
sure.
here. Let's say BJ, we'll start with you because you're
Yeah.
at the top of my screen. I'm just gonna
Oh,
work my
okay.
way down. Game of the year for you. What the game that
Ah,
came out this year? That's your game of the year, let's say.
probably Astrobot. Astrobot is too good.
Oh, nice.
Like I really, really loved Astrobot. We still haven't beaten it. We've had so much stuff going on that Jennifer hasn't been able to like focus on doing it. We tend to play that one together. But and we got sick, all sorts of stuff. But in terms of like just best game, Astrobot hands down, I think won that for me without like I can't think of any other game that I've enjoyed as much or had that much like is that high quality. Like I just
So
absolutely adored it.
so this might be the first year in the history of the Game Awards that the Game Awards Game of the Year is actually your Game of the Year.
Yeah,
I think
like
I think it is mine too. Like I'll just jump ahead and say mine's Astrobot as well. Um
it's
but yeah,
just
I
so
was thinking it's
good. Like
really
that's the
good.
thing.
Yeah.
It's really, really good, and it was a big surprise to me that it was even coming out. So whenever they first announced it, I didn't expect it, and so I'm really, really glad that it turned out to be as good as it is. So I'm glad it got the Game Awards Game of the Year on it because it is truly fantastic.
Yeah, and mine, I mean, well, actually, I think last year Baldur's Gate 3 won, and that was your game of the
Oh,
year, I think.
yeah, it did. It
So,
did. I
so
forgot
yeah,
about that. Got
you've
stuck,
got
but it
quite
did.
the popular
You're
choices
pretty
there.
mainstream, actually.
He
Yeah,
is, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Chris, what about you? What's your game of the year?
It's not Astrobot. I think
Well, that's been good knowing you. We'll see you next time, Chris.
I think that I agree with everything that you guys say about Astrobot. I think it has a lot of really really good qualities. It is probably like when I was playing it, I had like a smile plastered on my face the entire time.
Yeah.
And that never really went away. And I love that feeling. But I also got that feeling from like Echoes of Wisdom. I think that Echoes of Wisdom was like
Mm,
one of the best feeling Zelda games that I played in a really long time. And I think
Okay.
that personally, because I didn't really care for the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom approach to Zelda,
mhm.
I enjoy the more linear aspect of those games. There are open world games that I love and enjoy, but I don't think
Hmm.
that approach in Zelda is right for me. I understand lots of people love it, and that's great. And specifically, my issue with Astrobot is that there was a lot of referencing without actually like understanding. And when I say that, I mean that like you can have you find all your little
Yep.
friends and all the little characters, and they stay there and they do their one little animation, but it
Yeah.
doesn't even tell you where that character came from. It doesn't tell you who
No.
designed them. It doesn't tell you what game, like when it originated. It's just like it almost. I saw something the other day that said that Astrobot almost feels like instead of a celebration, it feels more like an in memoriam, where it's
Hmm.
like this is our giant hall of our heroes past, but with very heavy emphasis on like heroes past that are not here anymore and gone. And that's how
Oh,
playing Astrobot kind of makes me feel. And when I think back to it, that's like the feeling that I get when I think about
Yeah.
I
Well,
can
it.
I mean,
see that.
you do have, I mean, God of War, Uncharted, you had
Oh
you have a
yay,
whole
more
like
of those.
you have a whole
More.
Horizon level. The Spider-Man are in the new update that you guys should play the Christmas update. That
There's a
one's
Oh,
pretty
Christmas
cool.
update.
there's a Christmas update. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
check
one
That's
that
thing
out.
awesome.
that's one thing I like about it. They keep updating it with more stuff. And so like me and the kids, like we've platinumed it, and then it's like when the new update came out, we are like, oh, we gotta do all this and get those trophies and all those bots.
Yeah,
And then the new Winter Wonderland one came out.
that's great. I'll
And
have
it's
So
really
to
how does
fun.
make
that
sure I update it.
Yeah.
That's interesting to me because we've talked about before about this privately about how like you platinum certain games. When
Hmm.
you platinum a game like Astrobot and then it comes out with more stuff that have more trophies, do you then no longer have a platinum, or do you have to then get another type of platinum?
No, no, no. Your platinum stays. It's just extra
Mm.
trophies. So like if you go back to Final Fantasy 15 is the one that gets me. I played it on day one, platinumed it, and then FF15 kind of sucked really. And they kept on releasing more and more like DLC with it. They did new updates for it. Like if you go back and play FF15 now, it's like not the game that I played,
It's
on day
not,
one.
not at
But
all.
because of that, if you look on PSN, like on my account, you'll see where I have a platinum trophy for it, but it says I only have like 45% of trophies because
Yeah.
that's how much other stuff they added to that game after it came out, which is
Yeah.
just
Wow, that's a
ridiculous.
lot.
It is a
Yeah, and
lot.
and
Yeah.
it and they're all broken down into the different DLCs where they each have their own like meta trophy and the ones underneath it, like those. It really does get very, very complicated in terms of that. But yeah, I mean, I didn't know that they had those updates to it. I haven't noticed those.
Yeah. And I haven't.
Also, going to what Chris was saying about the looking just kind of like in memoriam with it, because Jennifer and I've been playing it together. She doesn't have the history with PlayStation 30 years that I do, and so when she gets one of the named ones or something, she'll be like, "Oh, who's that? Like, where's that from? What is that?" And because it doesn't give a
The fact that there's
name,
nothing in the game
and
that you can scan through and say, "Oh, this is from here. This is from here. This is
yeah,
from here." Like
it
that seems ridiculous
that's
to
a
me.
and I understand a little bit because they may have references or the leeway and legality to make parody kind of stuff. But it's like the Jill Valentine one from Resident Evil is like I can't remember her actual name, and then the bot's name, and then under it it says the Master of Unlocking. And so I had to go through the whole thing with Jennifer because I died laughing when I saw it because me being 14 years old or whatever when I saw that Barry giving her the lock picks, telling her that here you the master of unlocking, that kind of things like the bad translations doesn't mean anything to somebody who's never played that. So would have no idea where that she didn't have any idea where that came from. So it would be nice if they had a list of games for those kind of cameos. And I'm going
Yeah.
to get confused when I play the new update because I'm not sure what games the Spider-Man characters are coming from. It's like that's where? No, but
Yes.
really
And the other one, I actually thought of you, Chris, when I was playing it because Gex is one of the character
What?
bots that you
Do they
unlock.
really have a get?
Gex.
Well,
They
that's
do, yeah.
because who is it?
Friggin' love Gex.
The or not Crystal Dynamics. That's who did it originally. The same people who did the recent Spyro Toys for Bob
Hmm.
and a couple of other people. They are working on like doing a Gex like I think a Gex 3 remaster. I think is what it is. Which is
Nice.
that's going to be weird. That's not going to hold up well at all.
No,
I
Um,
no, it's
don't
not. But
know.
I can't wait.
Maybe.
Like
But
I
I
loved
want to
those
go through
games.
some of the other games. I jotted down a couple that I thought are like close to Game of the Year material. I do have a Game of the Year of sorts, but I want to
Wait,
see if
so it's
you.
not Zelda? It
No,
wasn't
no,
Echoes of Wisdom?
no,
Oh,
it's
okay.
not Echoes of Wisdom.
Oh,
No,
okay.
Echoes of Wisdom is definitely my favorite Zelda game in like 14 years. But I
Okay.
don't think it's Game of the Year.
Okay.
Uh,
So what's your game of the year?
I'm not going to tell you yet. We got to go through the list.
No,
Um,
no. I need your game of the year.
Listen to the host.
did either
Game
of
of
you
the year.
play? All
Game
right.
of the year.
My game of the year is UFO 50. UFO 50
Oh,
is a collection of 50 different games developed by Mossmelt, which is Derek Yu's company. Derek Yu's the guy who made Spelunky.
This is
Um,
the game you've been trying to get me to play
yes,
for a while now. Yeah.
yes. UFO 50 is 50 different games, and they're not like mini games. They are full real games, but it's from a fictional company called UFO Soft, who fictionally existed in the 1980s and developed they started as LX Systems and then changed their name to UFO Soft. Released about 50 games in the span of 7 to 9 years and then disappeared. And this is like, what if someone remastered that entire Fate Company's collection and made it into a project that you could kind of like kind of the same way as the Nintendo Switch Online has, here's all of our Super Nintendo games, something like that, but for a fictional company. And all of the games on it are absolutely fantastic. Some of them are like things that you've played before, some of them are like nothing that you've ever
Huh.
played before. And but it tells this like if you play all the games, you start to see like sprites pop up, or it's like, oh, they reused this asset here because these two games came out in the same year, and like it's the same programmer, and they were probably just crunching. So he just like there's a whole ARG hidden inside of it
Hmm.
that takes way too long to explain. But if nothing else, it has like my favorite horror game of well, I don't know because mouthwashing is really good, but it has a point and click horror game inside UFO 50 called Night Trap, or that's the real one.
That's the
No,
real one.
that's the
Yeah.
real one. This one's like Night House or something like that. But it's a very, very good little like 1.5 hour, 2 hour point and click horror game.
Wow.
And then there's also a heist game called Rail Heist where you're a cowboy robbing trains. And I've probably put more hours into I put as much hours into Rail Heist on its own as I have in like Bellatra.
That's the one you sent me was Rail Heist.
Yes.
I was waiting to see if I recognized the one, and I do. That's the one that you were
Wow.
messaging
Yeah.
me about
I looked
recently.
it
I
up
knew
as you were talking, and it looks awesome. Like it really does.
It,
This game looks great. I can definitely see how that would be game of the year material.
I knew you were gonna pick something that was like, out there. And no, because like I mean, and that's one of the reasons why I invited you on, but also I haven't got around to playing Echoes of Wisdom yet, but I was slightly disappointed when I thought that was your game of the year, not because I have anything against the game, but I was like, man, I expected Chris to pick something a lot weirder than that
my
as his
my
game
other
of the year.
alternate was Shadows of Doubt. Do you remember me telling you about that at all?
I do.
That's the
Yes.
procedurally generated detective game where it
Yeah.
Huh.
generates an entire city. That was in early access all of last year, but it had its like official release in like March or something. And that's been really good, but it is like crazy riddled with bugs. I've already talked a lot about games, but if I do weekly columns on Bonus Action. That's bonus-action.com. I do a column there every Monday, and a couple of weeks ago I wrote a bunch about why Shadows of Doubt is totally worth playing, even though yeah, it has some bugs that are frustrating.
Cool.
Cool.
So I know BJ's are not going to be this obscure for his. What's some other good ones you've played this year, BJ, that you wanted to call out?
I haven't played a whole lot of other games that came out this year that I haven't wanted to spend a lot of money on them, especially come
Final Fantasy Rebirth. We all know how much you loved that one.
yeah, that was a great one. I loved that. The mini games that were in it were totally fun and it kept me going throughout the entire game.
You
Uh
definitely didn't give up
I
20% of the
did
way through
not
the
give up
story.
if even 20% through. Like it was just so disappointing to me.
Yeah.
There are a lot of games that came out in 2024 that I want to play, but I don't want to pay full price for. I think this is a year of games that I've ended up skipping a lot of the games that seem interesting, kind of like Echoes of Wisdom, where I want to play it. I don't want to play it full price. I am very interested in it, and I'm very most of the ones that I have played have been older games or going back to kind of old favorites. I played the new WoW expansion and finished up the old WoW expansion. Got into that for a couple of months. I have been playing Adventure Quest 3D, just kind of going up to max level as I do. Honestly, most of what I've played this year, and I know I think it may have been last year too, I've played more Marvel Snap than anything. I love that card game. I'm not good at it, but I play it every day. More than anything, like it's what I've been really doing. It's sad I haven't played very many games at all.
You're
Once I think
I
about it, I've
and
read a ton, but I've not. I replaced a lot of my gaming time with reading or TTRPG stuff.
and and the new games you did play this year, like FF7 Rebirth and like DQ3 Remake, they're like remakes of
Remakes of older
of
games.
older games. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was
So
looking
like
through a list, and
Astrobot.
it's like Astrobot was the only like
So
brand new game I can
so
think of
maybe
that I
But it's
maybe
surrounded by
Astrobot
old characters.
But maybe Astrobot's not really your game of the year. Maybe it's just the only
The
new game
only
you
new
played
game I
this
played.
year.
Like I'm looking at the new games that came out this year. Like I found a list of all the major games, and I can't really see any that I played a lot of. Like I wanted to play Pal World, and I never ended up getting around to playing it. I never got the Suicide Squad game or anything like that. Though I've heard like it's I've heard that it's like $5 now. And so if there were ever a time to try it, it's when the game is like $4 or $5. The one I'm looking forward to the most that came out this year is the new Mario and Luigi game, though, Brotherhood. I
Brothership.
love those Brothership. Excuse me, Brothership.
Brothership.
That's the one I'm looking forward to the most out of any of them.
It ain't no brother
Like
boat. It's a
it's a
brothership.
brothership. Yep. But like, yeah, I just like looking through this. It makes me sad because I didn't play Star Wars Outlaws. I didn't end up playing the Princess Peach game that I wanted to.
Princess Peach Showtime.
And I wanted to. Like that's one where but they were full price games and I was never like I want to play it.
Yeah.
I got in my Iodine Chronicles. I have it for Switch sitting on the couch or sitting on the shelf in front of the TV. Never opened the box. I don't know what's wrong with me this year in terms of playing games. I haven't been able to really bring myself to do it. It's sad.
We've
I feel
even
bad.
we were even joking around before last week's episode about how I said it was going to be March before you beat DQ3 Remake at this point
Mm-hmm.
because of everything. Yeah. So
Yeah. Like I played some Marvel Rivals when it came out last week, and it's not great. It is exactly what I expected it to be. It's Overwatch with some Marvel characters. I still prefer Overwatch, and I haven't touched it since Overwatch 2 came out. So I mean, it's exactly what somebody would want if they were playing that game.
so
Like I
you're
totally understand why people would like Marvel Rivals over something like Overwatch, but I played the original Overwatch out, so I'm over team shooters. Like I want to play Luigi's Mansion 2. Again, it was an expensive remake, and so I ended up not grabbing it or because of having lost my job. So
yeah.
It's also
So
just difficult, I've found, like when you don't have a job to get like when you play games you want to relax, and when you don't have a job you feel like your job should be finding a job, and because of that it's very difficult to just sit there and like get yourself invested in another world, because that's always like on the back of your mind.
and I know you might have the same kind of issue in terms of like getting into games sometimes, is that I've been right since I was laid off in the end of July. I've been writing games. I've been working on game mechanics and things like that for D&D and Dragonbane. I've been writing these narratives for either on contract or for putting on DM's Guild or Drive Through on my own. And when I'm done with that, thinking about like really complicated game mechanics and how to make them like progress one way or the other, I'm not really into. I want to veg out more than anything, and the games I tend to play, being RPG and strategy, I haven't wanted to necessarily go to. Um, so it's been weird. Like I've read an absolute ton of tabletop RPGs. That's really more of what I've done than anything. And I think if you're looking at other games that aren't that came out this year that aren't video games,
video games.
Dreams and Machines would definitely be the one above that for me by Modifius. Dreams and Machines is great. It's the pseudo cyberpunk hope punk that they've got. They had sent me review copies of the GM's guide and the player's guide. It's phenomenal. They sent me. I haven't checked out the Electric State yet. I want to. There's also one, I can't remember the name of it. Their setting book for a city for Dreams and Machines. It's great. Reading through it was really wonderful. Like if it were just games in general outside of video games, Dreams and Machines would be the one that Dreams and Machines and Shadow Dark were the two that got me this year in terms of other systems, things like that.
Yeah, I got you. I mean, Astrobot's definitely my game of the year. I mean, I really I liked it. I've had a great time with it with the kids. That's actually why I think it was last week's episode I mentioned I've been replaying Legend of Dragoon, the like
Mm-hmm.
PS5 version
Yep.
of it, and that's why I unlocked the Dart bot in Astrobot, like about halfway through the game, and I was like Dart, and I got really excited because I like love Legend of Dragoon so much, and so
Yeah.
it was actually on sale. Like, I mean, it's only like a $10 game, but it was on
Yep.
sale, like a PlayStation sale for like $6, and so I grabbed it, and I actually
I did the same thing.
I
Not
got to
That is
recently, but
disc
before.
two
that
to
is
last night.
Astrobot working as intended. That's what that is.
It is.
That is why PlayStation gave Team Asobi so much money.
I mean, and it worked because I really did. I got to like what's disc two, last night, and haven't had a chance to play it today, obviously, but like and I've been having a ton of fun with it. I've been my brother and I like we have very fond memories of being like kids. Like I think I mean, I was a little bit older. I think he was in middle school, and I'm a couple of years older than him when that game came out. And like I have very fond memories of like we would go and spend the night at my grandmother's house, and like we'd pack our PlayStation with us and bring our PS1, and we had the
Yep.
Prima strategy guide for Legend of Dragoon because we couldn't figure some parts out once we got to I think it was disc four,
Yeah.
and we wanted to find like all the stardust and things, and so like that's been really fun. But like outside of Astrobot, I'm not. I played more games this year, like more I think mainstream games this year than I probably ever have, and it's purely from like work. Like like
Right.
I played Kill the Justice League when it was new, and for work. And
Yep.
honestly, the like if it's just like if it would just been an offline like solo campaign game, like I think it would have been fine. Like I actually liked
Right.
that part of the game fine. And like I played Star Wars Outlaws, which I was actually looking forward to, and then ended up being really disappointed in. I think I said in a previous episode about like too much sneaking, and I don't like being
Yep.
sneaky. And so like played that stuff, but then I mean, it's been a pretty good year for RPGs. You had Infinite Wealth come out. You had Grand Blue Fantasy Relink.
Infinite Wealth
Um,
was another one that was on my list. That one and
yeah,
Dragon's Dogma 2 were like two of my favorite RPGs.
Visions of Mana was pretty solid. Um, FF14 Dawn Trail. I really enjoyed that expansion of FF14.
Right.
And then of course Dragon Quest III Remake. I mean, outside of Astrobot, I think Dragon Quest
Yeah.
III Remake is probably where I've had the most fun in terms of a new release game.
Right.
But I mean, I love Dragon Quest. I like DQ3 already, and I've really had a good time going through like all the monster catching stuff that's in that game.
Yeah.
Where I think I've like on a normal year, I think I probably would have been in a similar boat to like you, where I would have played Astrobot. I'm sure I would have got Grand Blue Fantasy and like FF7 Rebirth. Probably would have got Visions of Mana, Dawn Trail, DQ3 Remake. But like outside of like those kind of like JRPGs, like I really wouldn't have probably played a lot of the other games that I played this year.
Yeah.
And and some of that I guess is bad, but I mean some of it's been kind of good. Like Star Wars Outlaws, I was glad that I played it and didn't have to pay for it.
Right.
um,
Okay.
it's it's a game that I thought that I would have I probably would have bought it otherwise, but I had enough fun with it
Hmm.
to
Well,
enjoy
that was
it.
how I felt about the Shadow of the Erd Tree, the Elden Ring DLC. I reviewed that and I was like, I'm done with Elden Ring, but if I don't have to pay for this, I'm sure this is fine. And it was very good.
Mm.
But I would probably like out of like my own choice, probably would never have like just paid for 40 more hours of Elden Ring because I had enough Elden Ring last year.
And also Indiana Jones. I'm surprised you didn't bring that one up because you're having fun playing it right now.
I am loving Indiana
I've
Jones.
I
heard
Indiana
so
Jones
many
is
good
great.
things. Yeah, I've heard great things about this game. I've seen Troidal Power posting about it, and it looks great.
Honestly, like this has just been I know like both of y'all have like y'all haven't played as much, but to me this has just been such a fantastic year for specifically indie games that when something like Indiana Jones comes out, it's hard to like want to say that's on my list as biggest game of the year because it's got Bethesda money behind it. It's got so much stuff where it's like, of course
yeah.
this would be good. But at the same time, there was a lot of evidence that it wouldn't be. Like Machine Games' last game was not the last Wolfenstein was not great. And Indiana Jones movies have been pretty hit
Yeah.
or miss in the past
Yeah.
like decade. So seeing it come out and having it be as good as it is lovely.
Mm.
And the same thing with like the Silent Hill 2 remake. Like it had a lot of stuff going against it, and it turned out to be really, really good. And Balatro, like Balatro, I'm surprised
Mm.
neither of y'all have mentioned Balatro. It's just because that game took
That's just
over
not.
the world.
It's not my kind of game. Yeah.
It looked neat, but it never grabbed me. Now, one, you mentioning stuff for work. I've got a review key that I'm getting set up to stream Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. I think that's what it is.
Ooh.
Wrath of the Righteous
Yeah.
Game of the Year with all the DLC. I was able to get a key for that. So I'm going to be streaming part of it. And I played the Pathfinder Gallowspire Survivors, which is just vampire survivors with
Tell
different Pathfinder stuff. That's
tell
really
the
cool.
people where you're going to be streaming it.
I'm going to be streaming it at youtube.com/at DQFM. Yes,
So
slash at.
so this brings up something that I want to mention. I know we're almost out of time, but I had to mention this. So last week's episode, anybody that watches the footage may notice that one of my daughters kept trying to get in over here on the edge of the corner at the very end there, and I was trying to like move the camera around with her out of the way. But anyway, she told me after the fact because she asked, she was like, "Is this going up on YouTube?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she said, "Do you remind people to hit the subscribe button now that you're on YouTube?" And we never do that because
We don't.
because we're a podcast, and I don't think of this as like even though we're on YouTube. So I'm contractually obligated by my daughter to now say hit the subscribe button in every future episode
And
we ever do.
slam that like button and ring the bell so that you'll be notified of any
So
of our upcoming streams
she
and videos.
it's funny because when I play video games, like Astrobot, Legend of Dragoon, DQ3 remake, whatever, I do this thing where I get on my what I call YouTuber voice, and I'm kind of making fun of like the YouTubers she watches and like do stuff. And anyway, she gets so mad at me. She's 8, but she gets so mad at me, and she's like, "You're so embarrassing." And I'm like, "No one's here. It's just you and me on the couch." Like she's like, "Yeah, but I'm embarrassed by you." I'm just like, "Well, sorry, kiddo."
It's
And then I just keep doing it anyway.
it's going to be a
Um,
long next 10 years for her.
so anyway, just wanted to bring that up real quick.
But yeah,
So,
that's a really good idea.
um, so before we head out of time, just wanted to give a shout out really quickly to our Patreon patrons for this whole year. We haven't said thank you in the last few episodes, but thank you guys very much for hanging out with us and sticking with us through this year and just helping support us and like BJ mentioned, I mean he lost his job and you helped him buy DQ3 remake
He really did.
earlier
Like you
this year.
heard on
So
this podcast specifically, the games I didn't play because of that. So I actually got DQ3 because of y'all and playing through it and able to talk about it. So like you guys have a direct impact on us as gamers and people. So you are truly fantastic human beings.
yeah, so thanks to all our patrons and all of our listeners. We really appreciated hanging out with you guys throughout this year, and we will be back uh, soon in 2025 to kick off things there. We have some, deep dive things in the work. We'll be talking about DQ3 remake because, it's going to be until March before BJ beats it. So every episode until then will be over DQ3 remake until he beats it. So I hope you guys like listening to DQ3 remake. Chris, you can go first since you're our guest here with signing off kind of stuff. Do you want to remind people where they can find you online?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say, thank you guys for having me here. As I chat with y'all,
All the
off
time.
record all the time. Anyway, it's always nice to speak with you guys. Everybody, if y'all are interested in looking at my stuff, like I said earlier, I do a weekly column at www.bonus-action.com. The column is called Ludology Now, and it's just kind of whatever is going on that I'm thinking about in gaming that week. You can find me on Blue Sky, just at Chris Teuton. That's Teuton. And you can find my games at Filthy and Free on itch.io. So you can search for either Filthy and Free Publishing or Dogtree Studios. That is the studio name and the publisher name. Other than that, yeah, thanks for having me. And everyone go play UFO 50.
And I'll have those links in the show description so that you guys can just go click them. So we'll be sure to get those in there.
For real. If you want to talk to us directly, remember we're on Twitter and Blue Sky at Dragon Quest FM. I just got a pop up that says my internet is unstable, so I guess it's a good thing we're signing off. If you want to talk to me personally, you can find me on Blue Sky at Dragon Quaston. And remember, you can find us on Spotify, DragonQuest.fm, wherever you like podcasts, and also YouTube.com/at DQFM.
Yes,
And
slash
remember
at.
to hit that subscribe button.
And while you're hitting the subscribe button, you can find me on Blue Sky at bjk.com. You can find me on Instagram and Threads at bjk.games, and on X, which I'm never on anymore, at bjkgames.
Delete
If
it.
you'd like
Delete
to
your
support,
X.
I can't. I have 15 years of there. It's already been used for AI AI training, so I'm just going to leave it and not use it. But I'm also on Patreon, like we mentioned before. We're all on Patreon at patreon.com/DragonQuestFM. This is fantastic, you guys. I do want to say thank you for everything. This is the end of season 6 of this. We didn't know if we would have enough content and the ability to talk for a whole season, much less going into season 7 in the beginning of 2025. And honestly, that's because of you guys telling us that you wanted to listen to us, and that the DQ community being so welcoming and wonderful and interactive going through all of this. So really, thank y'all. It's been a pleasure, and it is because of you that we're here. We'll see you in season 7 at the beginning of the year in a week or two.
For real. So happy holidays, everybody. Happy New Year. And we'll see you soon.
Yep.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, everybody. Say bye, Chris.
Bye, Chris.
I knew it. I knew it. Yeah.